Welcome to The Journey, Hopkinton Center for the Arts, a new web series where we meet artists and learn about their path to success in the arts, where they are now and where they're headed next. My name is Jere Shea, and I'll be your host and fellow traveler on the journey. This show is recorded live with a small invited audience this time around for the first pilot of the show, and a larger audience will stream us online. So however you're watching, thank you so much for tuning in. We have an incredible inaugural guest today with us, casting director Angela Peri, whose work I've admired for decades. She's the founder and owner of Boston Casting. BostonCasting.com is how you find them online. And she started that business in 1991. She has cast thousands of national, regional, and local productions, feature films, television, commercials, industrial films. She has an industry-wide reputation for excellence, and she is a recipient of the 2020 Artios Award for her work on the comedy Knives Out last season, a really wonderful film. Angela and Boston Casting has provided an entry point to countless Boston actors into the entertainment industry. She's been a source of training, coaching, and advice for a long time, and I and so many other people are grateful to her. Her recent works include the Oscar-nominated film Knives Out with Daniel Craig, Defending Jacob with Chris Evans, Mark Wahlberg's project Spencer Confidential, Taraji P. Henson's vehicle Proud Mary, I Feel Pretty with Amy Schumer, Equalizer, I think it was both Equalizer movies with Denzel Washington, if I'm not mistaken, and City on a Hill with Kevin Bacon, and yours truly had a little something to do with that too. She is a member of the the Casting Society of America, and an original member of the Massachusetts Production Coalition. She's a major contributor to the entertainment industry and indeed, as a result, to the Massachusetts economy. She is rightly known as the hardest working woman in show business, and above all, to me and a lot of people, she is an artist. So please help me welcome Angela Peri to the show. How you doing, Angela? Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
This is great. We may do these segments in person at some point, but we figured we'd save you the trip to Hopkinton from Boston by doing this one online. We're all in the same boat right now.
Well, I'm a jogger, so maybe I jog there.
Well, I did it the other way once on the marathon. It's a long trip, right? Yeah. Maybe we'll see each other on the road for sure.
Right.
You know, Angela, casting directors are a key part of the creative team for any film or TV project. And for those in the audience who may not have a sense of the work of a casting director, would you mind explaining your contribution to the creative process?
Sure. So here's my disclaimer. I have a really thick Boston accent. I spent a fortune trying to lose it when I was an actress, and then finally just gave up and became a stand-up comic with my accent. And now I've embraced it because I thought, well, JFK, he did pretty good with his accent, so I think I'm keeping mine.
Absolutely.
So that's my disclaimer. So if I talk too fast or people can't understand me, Jer, you'll have to interpret it.
Absolutely will. I speak it fluently.
A casting director, we are the middleman. We are hired by the producer, and we find selections of actors for feature films, commercials, industrials, voiceovers, some print work. We have a database of about 75,000 people, and we comb through that and give the director options. So we're basically the middleman. We don't hire people. You're not on my payroll. We don't make the decisions. We're a middleman. I am basically a headhunter. I'm a headhunter, and my value in this community is that I've been doing it for almost, are you ready? 40 years.
40 years, wow.
40 years. Well, I worked, before I opened my business, I worked at casting offices in Boston, LA, in Rome. I worked a lot in Italy. So my value is that I know the talent. Mm-hmm. I know who can do one line. I know who's an extra, can't do a line on set. Mm-hmm. Who can do one line, who can do 3 lines, who can do a paragraph, who can be in a scene with Mark Wahlberg and not lose it. Right. And who can be a supporting in a scene, in a whole series. Defending Jacob, we put so many supporting actors in that. Who can also be a lead in an indie. Mm-hmm. Boston's become such a hot spot that they're not bringing people in from LA and New York anymore. They're asking me, Angela, do you have somebody that can carry this indie? And I'm like, yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the cream of the crop, Jere, which you're in. You know, the cream of my crop people that started out here, went to New York, went to LA, can still make themselves local, you know, that group. But
right.
Yeah, so I'm basically a middleman. I'm not an agent. I don't represent the talent. You can't call me and say, why aren't you getting me any work? Because that's not my job. I don't work for you. I work for the producer. You want to get an agent will work for you, and an agent will take 20% of what you make. Agents and casting directors are two different things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that, because I think it's important for people to understand, particularly people who want to get into the business. They have a misunderstanding about who does the hiring and firing on a show. But I think in one way here, the one word I didn't hear you use to describe yourself was artist. And I do describe you as an artist because I've seen your work, and I understand that you populate the screen with faces. And you even said, I know who shouldn't be speaking on camera. I know who can hold their own with Mark Wahlberg, and that is a real skill set that not a lot of people have. And it's like, okay, so if someone can't speak, you would assume we just write them off and not hire them. But you recognize that person would bring a sense of authenticity to a scene that is really, really important for a director to help paint the picture. And that in itself it just takes an artist's sensibility. How do you feel about that? Is that an accurate assessment?
Yes, it is. Recently, I got a really amazing compliment from a childhood friend who I had grown up with that has followed my career. And he emailed me and said, did you cast Spencer from Confidential? And I said, yes, I did. And he said, I could tell because I see how your brain works, like the flow of the people you bring in. Because him and I grew up together, so we have the same sort of brain. I don't know. Am I the connoisseur of mob guys? Maybe. I did grow up in that 60s era where they were finding people in trunks. But, I just, I grew up in that world. So I know that sort of, I don't know. It's just a thing. Like David O. Russell is always pushing me to find characters that can act. And I just comb through it until, and I know it, I feel it. I just feel it. People have to just open their mouths and just give me one line and I can tell right away.
Yeah.
I've become so good at this that I can tell everything about you in 2 sentences. Once you've spoken to me in 2 sentences, I know everything about you.
And that's a real,
I don't know. Osmosis, I don't know. What's the word?
That might be it. I mean, I think you've got a real sensitivity about it. It's to me, it's a skill that I don't think a lot of people really possess. I mean, I've met a lot of great casting directors in New York and LA, and here in Boston, it's a smaller marketplace too. But when you think of the people that you've put into the business who've gone on to do other things too, I think you just have a natural eye for talented people. Right. So I want to thank you on behalf of a whole lot of other people too for that. It's such a critical thing, especially when we're tucked away up here in Boston. We feel that we're separated from the action, but there's so much going on here now that it's been really exciting.
I have a great story. So there was this woman, she used to come to the office with her 8-year-old constantly because the 8-year-old was good. So we used to bring her in for a lot of stuff. And the mother would be, Angela, you got to hear my daughter sing. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm too busy. Angela, you got to hear my daughter sing. You got to hear my daughter sing. So finally one day I said, let me get this lady off my back. I go, all right, she can sing. Joanne, come on, you can sing. I got 5-10 minutes here. So the little girl opens her mouth and sings this Aretha Franklin song that all the hair on my arms and the back of my neck stood up. I almost burst into tears. And I turned and looked at the mother and said to her, this child is far too talented to stay in stay in Boston. Pack your bags and take her to LA. She took my advice. That kid grew up to be JoJo.
Oh,
You know the
really?
singer Doja?
Sure. Yeah, I sure do. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's got a
from
great
here.
voice. Yeah.
From some suburb around here.
You know, I did hear she was from around here. I'd forgotten that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she was unbelievable.
So there's something inside you that responds to gifted people, and you recognize them, and it moves you. You know, I mean, where does this come from?
Moves me. It's what I live for. It's what I live for. To be moved like that during my workday, and somebody's paying me for this. Are you kidding? My friends and I do two truths and a lie. I have the best I have one of the best two truths and a lie. I had dinner with Bradley Cooper.
I bet that's true.
It is true.
Yeah.
It is true. David dragged me. I mean, there were 13 of us, and I was at the end of the table.
Yeah. You had dinner with him
He was
nonetheless.
there with his mom.
Sure.
And yeah, it's pretty. So, I mean, I can email Ava DuVernay, have dinner with Bradley Cooper. It's got its perks.
It's
Although,
fun.
It's not easy. I am completely gray. I dye my hair
Are you
every
really?
3 weeks. Yep. I'm an old lady. Yeah, but I look good.
You
But
do look good. For sure.
It's very it's a lot of work. It's not an easy job.
You know, I know just from my end of it, being on the other side of the camera, I mean, it's a stressful situation. The stakes are really high, and I know a lot of people don't get paid if you don't put people on screen. So it's a tough line of work. But in the end, I mean, it's you still. What I'm hearing is that you get excited still. You still get moved. You get excited. You're happy with the people that you meet. I'm sure sometimes you're not happy meeting certain people.
I got another
We won't ask.
story. This is how passionate I am. So, when we were doing Patriots Day, all Boston accents, okay?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm the expert. So Pete Berg comes in, and we're gonna book. You know, we had to book all these people that are still alive. So we're
I'll just mention the audience. Pete Berg, the director.
Yeah, Pete Berg, the director of Patriots Day, also the director of Spencer Confidential. So Pete Berg comes to my office, and we're doing callbacks, and I know you know this actor because he's from New York, but he's originally from Cambridge. I forget his name, but I'll let you know. I got to look it up. So we're booking the chief of police who was the jogger. Remember him? The old chief of police like 5 years ago, skinny guy.
Yep. Runs the marathons. Yeah.
Runs a marathon. He opens the film. Now opens the film with the line, "Nice day for a run, huh?" Because he's getting ready to go run the marathon. You need a guy with a Boston accent with that. And you don't need a guy from LA pretending to do a Boston accent. So I had this actor who was originally from Cambridge. He did it so friggin' right. But Pete Berg wanted another guy. And I said to him, go ahead. Ruin your movie.
In beat one, scene one.
He said, go ahead, ruin your movie. Open it up with a guy that doesn't really have a Boston accent, where all the Bostonians and New England people are going to be like, they're going to hate your movie right off the bat because they're going to think it's not authentic. You want to be authentic. Put the right kind of... So he was like, okay.
Yeah, see, that takes confidence. That takes an intellectual and an artistic confidence. You have a position and you're not afraid to lobby for it with these guys who've been around the block too, you know?
Well, you know, I feel like my mark's on it too. It's my legacy too, in a way, all these movies. So I want them to be good. I mean, The Fighter was... I should have won an award for that.
Oh, fantastic casting. Every corner, everywhere you look, I remember so many people that I grew up with, their faces showed up, and people who weren't necessarily actors full time.
Right.
You know, Sean Malone being one person who showed up, and it just was so real. And I know those all came through you.
Right. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Hyde Park.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Right around the corner from Jimmy Cummings, actor, producer, writer extraordinaire, who introduced us. Yeah.
Wow, that's so funny.
So I need to know where this comes from. So you've got this passion for it. You really enjoy it. You've got this sense. Where did you recognize this early in your life? I mean, you mentioned that you were an actor and a comic. Where's it come from?
Into this. So when I was like 8, I come from an Italian-American family. And my mother and grandmother loved Anna Magnani movies, so we used to watch Tattoo over and over. All those Anna Magnani, those Italian films from the 60s, Silvana Mangano, Sophia Loren. Oh, so that's how I identified. I thought when I grow up, I'm going to be one of those women, and I kind of am. But so I knew when I saw the rose tattoo, I said, I want to be an actress. And my family had a fit. They said, an actress is one step up from being Italian. We have a word for it. I'm not on camera, so I don't think
the other oldest profession, right?
Yeah, the oldest ladies of the evening. So they were against it. So I became a makeup artist because I loved the business and I knew I wanted to be in the business. So I was a makeup artist for a while. And then I tried to be an actress, and I went to LA and I went to Italy. Italy, they thought I was great in Rome because I looked Italian but spoke English. I was in Cinema Paradiso. I used to hang around with all the actors. Oh my God, yeah. It was quite the life. And when I turned 30, I came home. Oh, I was smart enough to know when I was a kid, well, if I'm not getting any work, I want to go where the work is, because I was a real hustler. I was a hustler. I still am. And
no doubt.
I started working for casting directors, and that's how it started. And then I started to become really valuable, and they didn't want to send me out on jobs anymore. They wouldn't let me work because I was too valuable in the office. And then one day I was like, you know what? I think I'll do this on my own. And that's kind of how it started.
And is that when you started Boston Casting, or was it another?
No, I started Boston Casting.
Yeah.
I missed my mom. I came home from Italy because I wanted to be with my mom.
Yeah.
Spent 5 years there, on and off.
Yeah. Wow. I had no idea. I knew that you were also, you said LA and New York, right? Did you, you worked in?
New York.
Not New York? Okay.
I wouldn't take that subway. No.
It has its issues, but it's handy.
Never. Even when I go now, at least now I have money, so I can take a cab.
Yeah.
Back then, who had money for cabs when you were a kid?
I always say it's one of the best cities you can be in when you're working. When you're not working, it's a tough place. You got to take those subways when you're not working.
Yeah.
Did you recognize this? And when I think about the things that you do for a film, for a TV show, I mean, it's like you are the person that knows where the brush stroke should go. So where that face should be, whose voice is going to be right for this thing. Those little details that bring it to life.
I'm so visual. I make myself crazy, and I will not leave a stone unturned because I come from the world of acting. I want to make sure everybody has a shot. I'm not one of those casting directors that uses the same 15 people in all the movies. No. I actually think sometimes, you've been in 2 of my movies? You need to take a break. Let's put somebody else to work. And I just try to shuffle people through because I don't want people to watch my movies and see all the same people. I want people to watch my movies and be in awe and be like, where did she find that? Or they probably think that all those people that they've never seen before come from New York, and they don't. They come from here, and I dig them out. I call it digging for diamonds, and I drive my staff crazy. Like for Mark's movie, we had a prison scene. It opens the movie with Post Malone. So I did a thugs and mob guys and crooks casting, and 800 guys came. And I have these amazing files of these guys with tattoos and bikers. And this is so good. And then so you find the one you like, then you got to make him an actor, which isn't really great. Like if SAG would kill me for saying that. But sometimes SAG doesn't have that sort of look. SAG has maybe one guy that looks like that. Well,
you got to start somewhere as an entertainer, as an actor. You really do,
And then for the most times, those guys don't work. They can't do it. They just can't do it. So they end up being extras, but they still make the scene look great,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it just, as I had said, especially with films like The Fighter, where you look at in every corner, there is a mug, some face. It's like, there's no way that person's an actor. And then they deliver. Then they get a couple of lines and they deliver. They always seem to do that.
Yeah, I will tell you, I worked with David O. Russell, not early in my career, but I don't know. When was The Fighter? It was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from him.
I bet.
That used to make me cry. He'd be so demanding. And then, but I would say, but he's right. And then when I would see it, I would be like, God, he's so right. So that movie was tough with him. And then I learned to just not question it and just go with it. And I've done 3 movies with him. And he said, he did a quote for the Globe that said, I love working in Boston because Angela Peri gets me exactly what I need.
Wow. Yeah. Not easy. And with a stable of 75,000 actors, you got to really know your stuff there. And that's not easy to put together a list like that.
Right.
That takes time. And I think it's, to me, just speaking with agents who have to know who the actors are too, and people, my friends in New York who are casting directors, I know the kind of time it takes from your life to put together a list like that. So I applaud it.
So rewarding when it's done. It's so rewarding. I will tell you, here's how I work. First, when a movie comes in, I do go to my SAG people first because I'm a retired SAG actress, and those people have paid their dues, which paid their initiation fee, which is a huge amount of money, paid their dues. These are the people that take it as a profession. So I think that they should get the first shot. So they get the first go around. If I don't have enough SAG people, because I think I only have like 1,200 working SAG actors in Boston, then I go to my AEA people. And then after that, because that's a sister organization to SAG, and she's okay with that. Then after that, if I've exhausted that, then I will dip into my non-union theater people. Mm-hmm. That's basically how the tiers I go through.
It's nice. I mean, I like the ethic around that, just that you're sensitive to the situation. People do want to make a living at this, so to the degree that is possible. So as a SAG guy, I appreciate it.
I feel bad for the non-union people that are really kicking it and really trying to get their foot in the door. And I say, those 3 days of extra work, get your SAG card. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the big boys, get your SAG card. Yep. And you'll be up for everything.
And you'll learn in the process too.
Right.
You'll learn a lot just being on set, for sure. So when did you realize that your first impulse, would you say, was to be a performer, to be an actor? When the movies, that was the first impulse to tell stories?
Right.
Sorry, I cut you off.
Through, I love talking about myself. You're like, oh, you want to be on the show? Oh, I love it. A whole hour? What do you think I'm in therapy for? Because I go there, I could talk about myself for a whole hour.
That's why we're counting on you to be our inaugural guest, Angela.
I know.
Do you think there was any event, you talked about the movies, the Italian films, those great Italian actresses that that inspired you. Was there any other art form, photography? You're a visual artist. Do you paint?
Then I fell into stand-up comedy. How did that happen? How did that happen? Okay, so I'm from Cambridge, so Lenny Clark was at the Ding Ho. And we used to go see Lenny at the Ding Ho because I went to high school with Lenny. And he was so fun. Oh, I'm sorry.
We can bleep it.
So funny. And there were no women. And I was like, you know what? I'm pretty funny. I don't know. I knew I was struggling so much with my accent. I was spending a fortune on Rex Trailer to lose my accent, and he would say to me, oh, you don't even know how to say your own name right. It's not Angela, it's Angela. And I'm like, and I'd go home and I'd say to my brother, Peter, could you pass me the potatoes? I would say, Ma, Angela's talking funny again.
All fancy.
Say, I'm never going to lose this accent living with you people. So then I just saw that Lenny was using his accent, and so I went to the comedy club, and there were 3 of us, 3 women doing it. Guess who they were? Linda Gold, Ellen DeGeneres,
wow,
and Gina Garofalo.
Wow.
And me.
And you.
And me.
And there's somewhere saying that the other three people, they're listing you.
Funny. And you know what happened to me? It was fear of success. Because I think I would have went the distance if I stuck with it. And Barry Gordy came up to me one night in LA and he said to me, stick with it. You're really funny. And I have fear of success and I stopped. I don't know.
Fear of success, but how do you explain Boston casting?
That was really sad. Boston casting, well, I used to work, my family got me a job in the Cambridge courthouse. I was a legal secretary, and I had benefits, and I had insurance, and I had vacation, and I had retirement. And I ever quit that job, they had a fit. They had a fit that I quit that job. Oh, what was your question? Bear with me, I'm 60. Here's my other disclaimer. Sometimes I
Well, I write things down. Well, I just said.
What was the question?
The fear of, you say you have fear of success and as a comic or as an actor, but you've done pretty darn well as a casting director. So explain that.
So I was working in the courthouse and I was like, my mother and my aunts danced around me. They did everything for me. They did everything for me and my cousins. So I was like I don't know what's the right word besides I don't know. I just couldn't work for anybody.
Strong-willed?
Strong-willed. When I was working in the courthouse, I just knew I didn't want to work for anybody. They were like, you're late. I'm like, yeah. So, so I knew I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to be my own boss. And at the time, I was a waitress. And I really wanted to open an Italian restaurant because I just come from Rome. And that was my thing. But I didn't have enough money. So I knew how to waitress and I knew how to cast. So that's how I just sort of did it. Just on kind of a whim. Wasn't a plan.
Incredible. Incredible.
I borrowed $300 from my cousin and rented an office.
And how quickly did you get your first gig as a casting director under the new shingle of Boston Casting?
I had like 4 or 5 people that are still clients of mine, and when they call in, I go, "You're the OG." Here's how it went. The first year, I made $1,000. I was so happy. But I rented that office. I go there every day. 2:00, I would go home for lunch at my mother's. Then 2:00, I would leave. 3:00, I would leave to put on my waitress uniform. I did that for many, 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 many years. I waitressed. I worked 7 days a week for 7 years to build that company. I forgot again.
Yeah, we just talking about the drive to succeed. You know how in some areas of the business it wasn't your thing. It wasn't going to be comedy.
The first year I made 1,000. The second year I made 5,000. The third year I made 10,000. Then I made 20,000. It just started going up and up and up.
Yeah.
But one day she actually closed the restaurant I was working at. My friend that owned the restaurants. Daily Catch, let's put a plug in for the Daily Catch.
Sure.
Seafood, best seafood in the city of Boston, better than any seafood restaurant, and I won't name other names. Anybody's business. But I'll tell you, at the Daily Catch, we don't have a microwave, and our fish is fresh. But anyway,
I remember it well.
She closed my restaurant, and I was like, you know what? I don't think I have to do this anymore. And by then I had a little baby boy, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I think I just want to do one job. And that's what I did.
That just worked out for both of you. I bet you're thankful that it's sort of the timing worked out in that way.
Yeah. And my son works at that restaurant now.
Oh, really? Oh, today? Really?
Yeah.
Nice. That's a nice thing about working in a town like Boston. You know, it's not a city. It's a town. You know. It's like a village, and I think maybe as a result, do you think that affects sort of the scale of Boston? Do you think that has made it easier or more difficult for you to do your work?
Oh, easier. Are you kidding me? I can call Marty Walsh and he'll take my call. I can call the mayor of Cambridge, whose mother lives next door to me. I never paid a parking ticket or a friggin' what do you call it, ticket in my life. not that I get pulled over a lot, but because I worked in the courthouse, I'll say to the cop, "Excuse me, officer, are you pulling me over for Chapter 89, Section 9? He's like, "How did you?" I said, "Because I typed it on a manual typewriter in the 80s for 6 years." So I just that's what I love about Boston. I mean, I can't go anywhere, go food shopping, and people are like, "Yeah, Angela," and I'm like, yeah.
You know, it strikes me.
Be enrolled into surgery, and the lady was like, here's a picture of my daughter. Isn't she beautiful? The nurse.
You have a job for asking for a job, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, so it's hilarious.
And do you think, so you've got, it was 75,000 actors profiles. Are they all from the Boston area, or are they from, Worcester?
We just opened up. Last year, we opened up Rhode Island casting.
Oh, great.
Office in Newport. We were doing a huge ribbon cutting in April, but then kibosh. Mm-hmm. But we do still have that office in Rhode Island. We have Rhode Island casting. We have actors in Rhode Island, all of New England, Connecticut. We don't have only offices in Boston and Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. Who doesn't want to be in Newport?
Right, especially this time of year.
But maybe next summer.
I hope so. I think so. Speaking of that, I mean, there's so much is going on in our present day. When you think about the coronavirus and the struggle for social justice in this country and in the world, how is that impacting you with your art, your work these days?
Well, we were poised to have the busiest spring in our 30 years in business. There were 7 projects shooting in Boston. We had 6 of them. We do feature films and full television series, 10 episodes. It was incredible. And David O. Russell was coming back. It was poised to be the biggest year ever. And then it just came to like this screeching halt, which was so sad. I know my sock drawer needed to be cleaned, but I didn't need 4 months to do it. Now all my socks have a mink. I want to go back to work.
Yeah.
Now we're going back to work slowly. It's completely changed. Mm-hmm. We have 3 studios at Boston Casting. 2 of them have no windows, so we can no longer use those rooms. Mm-hmm. We can only use the rooms with windows. We've moved most of the desks out. We can only have 2 to 3 people there at a time. Because we have a big space so people can spread out. Yeah. But we have sanitizing stations and protocol and bring your own pen and, no more waiting room, people waiting. Actors have to come 10 minutes apart. You have to text us when you're in the driveway. And it's just, it's a new world. And I think it's going to go on for a while, I hate to say. Because I think even with the vaccine, we're going to slowly ease into the vaccine. You know what I mean?
Right, for sure.
I think it's going to be like this for another solid year. That's my prediction.
I've seen stories in the trades about the UK and other locations opening things up for Hollywood actors, quote unquote. Right. And, before we can even work in our own country. And I have a feeling that's going to be the case. And hopefully those countries will continue to be able to function that way. To have that kind of opportunity. I think about, particularly with Black Lives Matter, and over the past several years, I think what I interpret as a concerted effort to level the playing field so that, the best actor, the best storytellers get to tell the story. How has that sort of informed your work, and has it changed your view of your job in any way?
We've never had any sort of barriers. We've always done a really diverse cast. Anytime we cast, we never saw anyone different than anyone else. It was always the better actor. I will tell you, there's 2 indie films that I know of that are shooting right now about the social injustice, the Black Lives Matter, and those are going to be really great. And Boston Casting's always done the best we could with making sure that people are seeing that there's enough, that the work that's out there, that people should get to audition for it. So we're going to continue to do that.
Great. Do you think that your work and your trajectory in the business has changed you as a person in any way? Or have you changed
Oh, yeah.
the way it's done. Yeah.
I learned early on that one day I said to this old man, he came in, and I try to make people relax. And I was like, oh, John, blue is your color. And he was like, oh, really? Like, that's a simple little compliment. I made this little old man's day. And I knew then that I had a gift. Not only do I have a job, but it's a gift. I can actually change a person's day, or sometimes even their life, or by putting them in the right position. I have a gift. I've been blessed with this gift, and I like to always do the right thing by it.
Yeah. Well,
never take it for granted or misuse it in any way, which I never do. But I do get a little cranky at Boston Casting, the people that know me, only because Boston Casting is a tough place to work. Some days I go there, there's 25 people there. I'm like, who are all these people? Yeah. So the pressure can get crazy, but I do try to stop and just make sure that people know how good they are and appreciated that they are.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that sensitivity to people, I mean, that humanity is a big part of your success in the business as well. Not only is it pleasant to be around you and people appreciate that, and you can change someone's day or you can change someone's life, but it also, I think, makes you more effective as an artist and a casting director, that you know what's going to put a person in the best light, put in the best frame of mind, relax that person, put a smile on their face, and then you click the camera on and get a great audition from them, perhaps. You know?
I know. Lisa and I have a business partner who's amazing, and she and I always say to people, we're on your side. We're not one of those casting directors that's going to intimidate you so you leave here crying. We're going to help you get it right so that you do a good audition. Although I think those casting directors are gone. I think that most of the casting directors that are in LA that we work with all the greats. Oh, we're so lucky. And I've never seen them to be that mean. But I've had casting directors be mean to me when I was a kid, when I was coming up. So they did exist back then.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you remember some of them.
Oh, sure. I mean, there have been people, I mean, I think in all lines of work, I've done a few different things for a living or through the years, but I mean, I think they're everywhere. People who are, you know, just a little bit hard or a little insensitive, but, you know, I think in that field, in entertainment, the stakes are high, the time is precious, and people don't want to suffer fools or hold hands. And I sort of had to learn that very quickly, that, you know, you're sort of on your own out there and you have to have a thick skin. But it's really always a pleasure to speak with someone, to run into someone in that environment who gets it, to understand that we're all human beings and trying with the same goal in mind, you know.
Right.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it for sure. And do you feel, is there anything that you wish you knew when you were starting out that you know today? Something you figured out now that you would love to go back and tell yourself when you started out in the business?
Get a retirement fund. I almost started one because I had one at the courthouse, and I took all the money and went to Europe. And then I was like, I'll start one. And then when I was in my old office on Boylston Street, and I was like, oh, I think I should start a retirement fund, and I didn't do it. And now here I am, 60 years old, with not a good retirement plan. Although I have a couple of houses, so I'm okay. But
do you feel like you'd like to retire, or do you enjoy this work?
That's what I tell the young people. Get your retirement plan set up now while you're in your 20s. Here's the deal. My plan was to retire in my 60s, but not anymore. Not anymore. We're doing so well. And it's just too exciting now. Now that the big work's coming in and the tax incentives, having all these things. And I'm valuable. There's nobody that does it like me. People want to call themselves casting directors, and you know who you are. They're not. Right.
Well, I mean, I think I have a suspicion, I certainly don't want to put words in your mouth, but I have a feeling that you define doing so well as more than just the money rolling in.
Yes.
Yeah.
I won my first Artios Award. That's like huge.
Yes.
It's equivalent to a casting Oscar. I think that there'll be a casting Oscar in my career span. I think in the next 10 years, there's going to be a casting Oscar. One of my friends from LA is going to get it, and it's going to be amazing. Who won the BAFTA that last year? Somebody from LA won the BAFTA.
All right, okay.
BAFTA did
They have a casting
award, so
Yeah.
the Oscars are going to do it. So
Yeah,
I mean,
they need to do it.
I'm one step. It could be me. I'm one step away too. Lisa, my partner, Lisa, my partner, did a film where the whole cast had to be deaf, and one of the cast members had to be deaf, LGBT, and a stand-up comedian. And she found it. And that film opened the Toronto Film Festival last year. It was an amazing film. Like that film, she should win an Academy Award for that. So, I mean, that's kind of cool. I mean, the award that I have was so exciting. Like all my colleagues, we were in the same room that they did the Grammy Awards in the Hilton.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty big deal. I almost fainted.
I can imagine. And it's such a great film.
So I look at this award, which I'm looking at it right now. I polish it.
Hi, you should have it in the background here.
I know. I look at it as a culmination of all my work.
Yeah.
I don't look at it as the one movie.
You know, I think in many ways awards for art are just that. I think voters do have to consider the body of work when they're doing this too. You know, you see, there are lifetime achievement things that happen at some point along the way to sort of fix things when they have not done the right thing in the past with an actor or some other artist. But I think in many ways this award this year is, or at least should be, an acknowledgement of your body of work through the years. For sure, it is so deserved. So what do you think? You know, this is a show about journeys, and you've talked about working in LA, coming from Boston, working in LA, and spending years in Rome, and then coming back here. That's a journey in itself. What do you think for the future? I'm going to guess that you'll stay in Boston. I hope you do, or bounce back and forth between the office and Rhode Island. But what's ahead for you?
Florida.
Florida?
I might end up in Florida.
Yeah. And do you think you'll there'll be some
my Italian aunts went to my grandmother. They all are from New York to Florida.
It's nice to have a central location for everybody, isn't it?
Italians go. They're all dead now, but my journey. I people think that I love what I do. I do love what I do, but what I really love is building a business. That's where I really get the charge out of it. So we own 4 businesses, Lisa and I. And I just love watching these businesses grow. And I love the challenge of growing these businesses. And that's number 1. Yeah. And number 2 is my son's happiness. And then I know I put my business before my son. Awful,
so you can take care of your son.
My first baby, I know. And then the third is the casting work itself. But I will tell you, I really, my steam comes from building that business and just being creative and making it the best. You
are undoubtedly the creative type between creating a business, creating a son, and creating really wonderful cast. So absolutely, you are one of the creative type. In fact, we bounced that name around as a potential name for the show at one point. So it's so funny that you said this. Is there, when you think about everything that's going on in the world now, and not just Black Lives Matter, although that is something that I hope is on everybody's minds. The coronavirus, of course, is on everybody's minds. And so many other struggles out there, and the arts sort of get shunted to the side once in a while, or they're just not taken seriously. Is there any message that you would like to say, either through your words or through your work? I think that creatively, that we can heal so many people creatively. Like one of my charities is autism, because I know how firsthand autism can help. Acting can help kids on the spectrum. That, if you practice practice banter through improv with kids, that all of a sudden, it might take 6-8 months, but then the kids start, using those sentences that you practice and practice through improv. So I think that acting is so healing. And urban improv, those guys, I think they're in Hyde Park.
They do these amazing improvers go into the schools in Hyde Park, in the schools in Boston, not just Hyde Park, but all over. And they teach these kids these learning, these tools for learning, like, you know, these kids, some of these kids live in rough neighborhoods and they do improvs about, oh, if somebody wants to offer you drugs, and just like life skills they teach them. And it's just so amazing that they do that. And yes, I think that this whole Black Lives Matter, the movies that indie films that they're making about it now, that this is how people are, through the arts, are going to heal a little bit.
Yeah.
And I want to be part of that for sure. I want to be part of that for sure.
I have no doubt that you're going to be a major part of it here in the Northeast, and in the industry. You'll continue to be a major player here. And I'm just so grateful that you have done so much for the business, so much for the artists, and so much for the audiences here in Boston and across the country. I just want to thank you for being here. We do have some questions for you. Would you mind taking a few questions before we stop? Awesome. Great. So I think Kelly's going to chime in here momentarily.
I am here. First one is from Abby McFarland, and she wanted to know, what are some of the qualities and experiences you look for in a performer?
Confidence, confidence, confidence. Don't come in my room all that bundle of nerves, because you're done. You lose. So I always tell actors, if you can, jog. And if you don't like to jog, but you want to be an actor, learn how to like jogging, because you should jog as close as you can to your audition time to get the nerves out of your body. If you don't like jogging, go on the elliptical, do something so that you schedule your audition around the time within an hour and a half, 2 hours of when you've worked out. Because that's when your body will be its calmest and you'll be able to perform. Know your lines. It'll behoove you to memorize your lines. If you can't memorize your lines, at least memorize the first line so that you're looking into camera or looking at the reader. And do your homework. If you don't know what the 5 W's are, you need an acting class. Don't think you can just come into our business and think you can do it. Because you can't. If you wanted to be an Olympic skater, how many hours a day do you think you'd have to skate? And acting is the same. People think they could come and just do it. And, you know, we probably wouldn't bring you in for an audition unless you had a resume with some stuff on it anyway. So you probably know your salt if you get into the room. And it's just a matter of owning it. Pretend. I always tell when I teach, I tell them, pretend your father owns the building. Because you walk in and you're like,
That's great.
It just gives it a different, you know, because then you're like somebody fun, smile a lot, you know. Your performance is one thing, but it's how you carry yourself. It's almost like how we, not grade you, but we want to get to know you, and we want to put in front of the director the people that we're comfortable with, that we feel we have that we believe in.
Great. That's fantastic advice. So from Marley Shaw, she wanted to know, what was your favorite project you casted?
The Fighter. Love The Fighter, but I also loved Defending Jacob, which I just did 8 episodes of, and it was one of the best experiences. The director was from Sweden. He was really fun to work with, but because I loved it so much. Mark Bomback, who wrote the screenplay, but the guy that wrote the book was from Cambridge Courthouse, and I used to work with him. But I didn't really know him. He came a little bit after me, but Defending Jacob is set in Cambridge Courthouse. So I was beside myself because I lived this. So I got the DAs, and I got the judges, and I got the court officer. I was beside myself. Excuse me, especially when I told them, you got to use a real court officer. I know the SAG people are going to be mad at me, but it's just better. So we did. We got some Spanish women, and it was really great. So that, for me, was it's my most proud right now.
And then a final one from Marley. She said, do you have any advice for people who want to get started in an acting business?
Yeah, I would say start with an improv. You got to take classes, because number one, you have to see, number one, if you like it. Number two, if you're good at it. And number three, if it's something you want to spend some time and pursue, because it's a business. I always tell the actors, you have to split yourself in two. You have to become your own manager, and you have to become the talent. And every week, that manager has to spend at least 4 to 6 hours a week helping the talent find some work. The manager has to do all the work, so that the talent can stay creative. If you approach it that way, like a business, you will be successful. The days of my mother said I'm pretty and my grandmother said I can dance, those people don't make it, because they get caught up in it. And I think everybody should start out with an improv class, because improv stretches you as an actor, where you can see if you even like the business, or if you're funny, or if you're good on your feet. And the good thing about improv, it doesn't have the stress of memorizing, because memorizing itself is stressful. Because if your brain's not trained to know how to memorize quickly, that can be stressful. So I say improv class first, then a fundamentals class or acting 101, because you need your foundation. You need to know your W's. You need to know who you're talking to, all that stuff. And then by then you'll figure out if you want to do this. And I will tell you, every town has that Center for Adult Education, and these classes are $75, and that's where you should start. You want to take it at Boston Casting, you take it there too. But I think that Hopkinton has it, Cambridge has it, and those classes are a fantastic place to start. And then as you go up, then you get listed with casting directors, then you take a Breaking Into the Business class. I teach that. And then it gives you all the 411. You got to get the 411.
Fantastic, Angela.
Isn't it true though?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to do your homework. You got to push like it's a bit. You got to be your own boss, and you got to be your own employee. There is that. There is that.
Manager and the talent.
Yep.
Don't just the talent out. Let the talent be creative. But that manager has to get up early every Saturday and look for auditions. That manager needs to make sure you got a headshot. That manager needs to be sending that headshot out for auditions. So it's like.
And I think you have a reputation of giving tough love and straight, candid advice to people who are in the business, So I think that's something that's so valuable to someone going in and thinking, hey, I'm going to get discovered today. But there's a whole craft behind this.
Hillary in my office, she'll work with an actor. 4, 6, let's do it again. Let's do it again. I go to her, are you off your rocker? I mean, I don't want to criticize her, because I want all the casting directors, like you said, it's such a creative job to her to do it the way she wants to do it. She tells me to go. Anyway, she doesn't listen to me. But so our styles are very different. She'll work with an actor for 15 minutes. Me, I'm like, honey, this ain't no acting class. You can't cut it in 2 takes. See you later. Go take a class, and I'll see you in 6 months. And that's how I do it. I'm a machine. I like to get through people, because I don't want to just see 12 people for a role. I want to see 40, because I want to see the diamonds. I want to see who's gotten good. And I'm not going to be able to see the volume if I'm working too much with actors. I don't know.
Oh, that's nice. It just strikes me as that you're someone who, if someone goes in and they don't do it in 2 takes, that 6 months, a year from now, 2 years, 5 years from now, you'll give them another shot, and you'll see how much that they've grown.
Right, absolutely.
Because they're on their own journey in the business, and right. I think that's fantastic that you acknowledge that and you allow for it. Angela, on behalf of the HCA, the Hopkinton Center for the Arts, everyone who is listening now and streaming this online, and myself personally, I'm just so glad that our paths crossed, our journeys intersected here, and I look forward to doing this again someday. And I just want to thank you so much for your spirit, your generosity, your time, and your talent through the years. Thank you for everything you've done in the business here in Boston, and I really look forward to seeing you in the future.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm sure we'll be one of the first ones we call in when we get cooking again.
That sounds great. Count me in.
Yes, very
Count me
soon.
in.
Kelly, nice to meet you. Bye, everybody in Hopkinton.
If someone's serious about acting, they're serious about technique and preparation. Actors use actions like painters use paints. Talent is important, but the pros are willing to work and they know how to work. We work from the inside out and from the outside in. And we talk a lot about being honest and in the moment and natural in what is for most people an unnatural situation. How do we achieve that? And how do we achieve that consistently? No more winging it. It's time to be an artist.